Welcome to After Hours with Dr. Sigaloff, where he can share ideas and thoughts with you. He gets to the heart of the issue so that you can find the truth. The views and opinions expressed are his and do not represent the U.S. Army, DoD, nor the U.S. government. Dr. Sigaloff was either off duty or on approved leave, and Dr. Sigaloff was not in uniform at the time of recording. Now, to Dr. Sigaloff.
Well, today I have a great honor to have Dr. Jane Ruby on. Now, Dr. Jane Ruby has been in this fight for quite a while. I've heard her on Stu Peters, and she now has her own show. Please look her up. But it's certainly a pleasure to have you on today.
Thanks, Dr. Sam. It's great to be back with you.
And what I'd like to discuss today is, this is part of my biowarfare series. And you recently discovered, along with Mike Adams, when you looked at some clots of people that had died after having the clots.
Right. Well, let me tease out a couple of pieces so that people understand the chronology and all this. In January, I was approached by an embalmer who is a board certified, 20 years experience. He had been seeing something very strange that he had never seen before in all of his experience, and that was these white, fibrous, kind of sinewy, tough. We're calling them clots. They were not blood clots. There's a little bit of blood around them, but and because he just kept seeing it, and he kept seeing it more and more, and he never saw it, by the way, before the early to mid part of 2021, which aligns it with the rollout of these bioweapon shots. I don't call these vaccines. They're not vaccines by any definition. They don't confer any future immunity. In fact, they actually do the opposite. They set people up for a degraded immune system and illness. So what happened was I encouraged Mr. Hirschman he came out publicly on the show, his own name, his own face, and I encouraged him to find, to go to the next step and get an analysis of what these are, because we need to know what the material is. Is it living? Is it not living? And he did. He tried for many months, Dr. Sam. He went to some of the frontline doctors, I don't mind saying, and they gaslighted him, they stalled, and they didn't do it. Now, you can all do the math and figure out why that may have happened. I wasn't very pleased when I saw it happening, and about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I thought of Mike Adams. I actually have a live show every Monday night on Brighteon TV, which is one of the things that Mike Adams founded. He's known as the Health Ranger. And so I had a relationship with him, and I knew that he has a lab. It's a national certified lab, and he is, a certified microscopy expert for some of his own work that he does. So I engaged him and asked him if he would, look at these things. He said 100%. And then I connected him with Mr. Hirschman. I let them handle the chain of custody. And within 24 to 48 hours, not even 48, Mike he put together his findings on microscopy, and he went down to 1,500 times magnification. And then he's now in the process, which is going to take much longer, like 7 to 10 days, and we're about halfway through that, looking at the chemical composition. He's going to rule some things out, and he's going to try to rule some things in. So we'll see what he comes up with. Again, this has nothing to do with a vial or the direct materials. It has to do with what the human body is developing once they've been jabbed. And all of these people from Mr. Hirschman have been almost 100% have been certified, or validated as having been jabbed. I've had 2 more breaking news, Dr. Sam. I've had 2 more embalmers come forward just in the last week. I think they're very inspired by this. They were afraid to come out, afraid for their lives, not their jobs. But now they're coming out, and they both provided me with pictures
Of the same kind of clots.
of the exact same kind of clots, the configuration, the sizing, coming out of the same vasculature locations, like the neck, the femoral, sort of the groin arteries and veins, and let's see, I think, and the brachial, the larger. It's where embalmers go to begin their process, which is to, go into the system through the vessels and push. As they push their embalming fluid in, sorry for the graphics for those that don't know, but it's important to understand. The theory is, or the process is, that it pushes the person's blood out, drains it out, and replaces that with the embalming fluid, which is the way you preserve a body in that manner. These embalmers consistently all found resistance. They had to stop, change out their tools, use other tools to try to remove the blockage, and they are finding the same thing over and over again. Now, the startling thing is that when they have pulled these out, intact, like surgically, carefully, they have found that they are actually castings of the vasculature, which is incredibly creepy. So they've got 20, inches long plus from the femoral as they tease it out. It's all one piece, and it's multi-bifurcated or branched off. So
And one thing that's really
that's the
interesting about
story.
these clots, and I had the honor to be able to speak to an embalmer not too long ago, and hopefully I can have him on because he's for a different reason, due to his family story. But I'll let you know later if I can get him on. But he was telling me that typically they would do one injection site at the neck, and now they're doing 5 injection sites: the neck, each arm, and each leg, because they can't get the embalming
Wow.
fluid to go through the body
Yeah.
because the
In
clot
fact,
load
I'll
is
tell
so
you,
burdensome.
the clot load is hugely burdensome. I had a really, the second embalmer that just came forward, I wants to be anonymous. So I want to be careful with not saying anything that, gives away the location or anything like that. But this person said to me, in addition to corroborating independently, without provocation or, probing, with corroborated everything Mr. Hirschman found, this person added another piece. This person said that the bodies were coming to them very bloated, so badly bloated, interstitially, not just intravascularly, but so much fluid had been pumped into these people that it exuded into the cell, the tissue around it, which is interstitial for those who don't know that. I know you know that, Dr. Sam. But and they said that the people were coming to them. They're not even recognizable, but they did the best they can because you can't get that fluid out of the tissues once they're dead. And I said, well, why would the family want to do that? Like, why do they want to view? And the embalmer said, you have to understand, these people were deprived of seeing their loved ones. They were in the coroner's office for a week or two. And even though it's a very distorted, horrible situation, they just want some closure and they want to touch the person and, say goodbye. It was really heartbreaking. And
Were
and
these
they verified that these bloated cadavers were coming directly from ventilators.
That's what I was going to
And I'm
just
sure it's
ask
the
you is,
remdesivir infusion.
are these from hospitals where they give too much fluid? Uh, and I
The,
encourage the listener
the
to go
bloated
back and
ones were.
I encourage the listener to go back and listen to the episode where I interviewed Dean, and how Dean explained to me how, he's a layperson, he doesn't know the medical side, but he explained to me how they tried to kill him. He didn't know that's what they were doing, but when you schedule narcotics every 4 hours and wake him up to give him narcotics, you try to intubate him in his private room,
Wow.
like, you're going to kill him. That is
Wow.
the intent. There's no other, like, you don't schedule narcotics. They're PRN as needed. You never schedule narcotics.
Hospitals are very dangerous places right now. I'm sorry to say, but the nurses and the doctors that stayed in there are really, not only are some of them accomplices, many of them are direct murderers. And I've said nurses that stayed are murderers. And when they jumped all over me, I said, somebody's hanging those remdesivir infusion bags. And you know what you're doing if patient after patient gets wheeled out to the coroner's office week after week. If we had the accreditation agency, but all of our federal agencies unfortunately have collapsed. But if we had a federal agency like JACO, the Joint Accreditation Committee, you would have had them down your throat within a week, demanding to know about the protocol and why is this causing so many deaths. But everything's shut off right now. Everything is shut off, and we know why now. That's another breaking story.
Right. So these things that when you looked at these, when Mike Adams looked at these under the microscope, can you describe some of the things he said? And
Yeah.
hopefully I can get some pictures of these to show while we're talking.
Sure. I mean, I can. Yeah, give you some pictures and you can put them up for the audience. He started, with minimal, um, microscopy, magnification was the word I was looking for. And he went higher and higher and higher and got, drilled down into it. And what he did was these were very thin pieces. He's described in detail his methodology, and he's actually posted an article on it on Natural Health dot, his website for his news. And so he would take, these slices and then drill down, magnifying. And when he got down, you could see what he called nano wiring. You have to remember a lot of this stuff, this is self-assembling, right? These people were not injected with with a material, the thickness and length of my finger. So they were injected with a, seemingly benign, clear liquid. And this has self-assembled. This is the creepy, scary, horrible part of this. These clots that you're seeing, these long, white, thick things that are being pulled out of the body all over the place, have assembled themselves inside, right? So over how much time? We don't know. Is it consistent from person to person in terms of the time it takes to assemble? We've seen, let me take you back a little bit, just really quickly. In the beginning, like last year, I started to have people like Dr. Zandre Botha from South Africa, Dr. Gitala from Austria, and Dr. Philippe van Welbergen from the UK, and a few people in the United States who were finding, including La Quinta Columna, that found these structures right in the vial fluid, right? So when they magnified down, they saw structures that looked very, did not look biologic, they were sort of geometric shapes and things like that. We now looking back, we now think that those are the precursors to the self-assembling particles, that if you let them go long enough in the warmth and whatever else they're using in the human body to make these things, or maybe they're pre-programmed to use whatever they bring along with them, then we're seeing these grotesque pieces, being pulled out of dead bodies. So we don't know how long they've lived with this in their body and multiplying. And don't forget, in Fauci's December 4th, 2019 testimony before the House Energy Committee, the Subcommittee on Investigations and Oversight, he was clarifying Trump's September 19th, 2019 EO, the Modernization Act, saying, and he literally said, we're going to be studying. He didn't say inserting. He said studying mRNA platforms and self-assembling nanoparticles. So, there's the criminals right there telling you what they're doing. So it's horrible. It's horrific. And
one thing I don't know if
this embalmer, yeah.
One thing I don't know if we talked about yet is the location of these clots where they're discovering them. Now, I know and you know, but I'll go ahead and explain. Just normally when we find clots in a vessel, there's two main types of vessels, right? There's arteries going away from the heart, and there's veins coming to the heart. Typically, when we find, let's say your grandma has a clot in her leg, it's in the vein. It's in the low pressure system where blood stays around for a while. And okay, I get it. It sticks around for a while, the little platelets stick together, and that's how you get a clot starting. Once you get a clot starting, then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Where are they finding these clots?
They're finding them everywhere. They're finding them everywhere. That's why they're having so much trouble moving the embalming fluid through. They're finding it in arms, hands, feet, legs.
Arteries.
They go in. I mean, I would have to query them a little bit more specifically in terms of, are they going in the trunk? One embalmer told me, and this is a little grotesque. This is why one of the reasons this person doesn't want to be, public. There are a lot of things that happen, like in surgery and especially in the embalming world. I think that they have to get the job done no matter what way they have to do it. And so this person said to me, I'm just reporting to you what they told me. They said to me that they could not get fluid, through the vasculature, through the head. And what they had to do, there are other chambers other than blood vessels. There are nasal passages and, auricular and things like that. And they had to really tap the back of the head fairly hard, and that that came out of different orifices. It was pretty disgusting description, but the embalmer was trying to explain how prolific and ubiquitous these things are in the body,
in all
that
the
they're so
arteries.
filled that they can't. It's more than arteries. Mr. Hirschman started out by saying, I originally saw them only in veins. I have only seen regular clots in my 20 years, only in veins. Maybe rare occasion, there might be one occluding an artery in a dead person.
As
Now he's telling me I see them
in my
all
experience,
the
I've
time in
I've
arteries.
never seen a clot in an artery ever. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I've never seen a clot in an
Yeah,
artery.
Mr. Hirschman says he's seeing them all the time out of arteries and veins now, and he sees them in 80% of the cadavers that he's working on. And
Wow.
the second embalmer told me that they're everywhere in the body, everywhere, which triples the time they need to embalm the person because there's so much extra work to get, passage through.
So there is a significant
Yeah.
change, and this is good that we're looking at the embalmer side because that was one thing that I did not notice through all of this increased death that we've heard about through COVID is, and it may just be from my naivety. I'm not saying this is the actuality, but I don't remember seeing lines and embalmers and mortuaries being just booked solid. I don't remember seeing that. I could very well be wrong in that statement.
That's a great point. In fact, I took some notes from the second embalmer because this person's work is going to become more and more well known, even if the person wants to continue to stay anonymous. But this person told me that since last fall, that in that person's state and county, because they're sort of a traveling embalmer, just like Mr. Hirschman, they're called trade embalmers. This person said there's been a 46% increase in death call volume. So where they're getting paged and called, hey, we've got another body. There's been almost 50% increase in the volume,
That is
which
a
goes
significant
along with the
increase.
insurance adjuster. Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
did
with
they
the
see that at the
all-cause
peak of the
mortality.
COVID crisis?
They didn't see any of this in 2020. They only began to see it in the spring to summer of 2021. And Mr. Hirschman says it was about 20 to 30% of the cadavers. He said by the end of 2021, it was up to 80%. He said now it's anywhere between 80, 90%. I asked him if he's ever seen any babies or toddlers, and I held my breath, and he said, no, thank God. I think that may change now that this criminal cabal has authorized these shots for babies 6 months old to toddlers under 4. So I'm very worried about that, and I'm hoping that people can get the word to parents to really stop and do a little bit of research before they jump into this for their babies.
And I think that's one thing that we really both want to ram home right now to anybody. If you know anyone that has a child, a baby, 6 months and older, that's eligible for this, please talk to them. Have that conversation. Buy them a cup of coffee. Bring them over for dinner. Talk with them. Find out what their feelings are. Encourage. Don't berate them. Just encourage them to not give it to their children. If it approaches everything. Relationships are everything. But we need to help protect these children. And if it's the soft, gentle way, because yelling won't help, then we need to do that soft, gentle way to actually protect these children. Do that hard part of building that relationship, having them into your home, having dinner with them, buying them a cup of coffee, so that you can talk to them and be like, "Hey, have you heard this? Have you heard of this?"
Yeah, and remind them that no one's ever said, "Hey, I couldn't get it. They ran out." Right? So they're not going to lose anything by just waiting, like you said, sitting back, thinking about it, maybe doing a little extra reading. They're not going to run out. There's no urgency to this, to getting it.
Is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Well, um, you know, I'm very concerned that we're getting more and more people with this. People are getting sick. They're not making the connection to the shots, which is a very strange phenomenon to me. I just had a relative, last night who was rushed to the hospital down here in Florida, perfectly healthy, 50 years old, no prior medical history at all, was triple jabbed, unfortunately, made that decision for his job, and now has diverticulitis. They found some spot on on his colon, and there's some issue with his bladder, and people aren't putting this together. I'm not going to hit them over the head with it, but there's so much variety in the way that people are getting sick. But it's the timing, Dr. Sam. The timing is very suspicious to me. We said last year it'll be about 12 to 18 months, and people are going to start to display those long-term symptoms, right? The antibody-dependent enhancement opportunistic infections. We're seeing those left and right. In fact, they're trying to use that. I mean, as a medical practitioner, I would think you would know that shingles is really something that's, not all that common, but we would see it in the hospitals in elderly people, people with, compromised immune systems, really run down, those kinds of things. It wasn't something regular. And it wasn't easy to catch if your immune system was in good shape. So I do want to encourage people to take care of themselves, eat well, eat healthy, try to exercise. If you have taken these shots, don't take any more, because I do believe it makes things worse as you add to it. And nobody knows what God designed in its entirety, right? So there could be incredible capability of the human body if you can survive this and support your body in keeping you healthy and keeping your defenses up. God can do anything. And I think God pre-built in a miraculous healing system. So who knows? But you want to help that healing system, as much as you can. So take your supplements, eat good, clean water and food and those kinds of things.
That reminds me of something that I was talking with Dr. Long, and I think many of the listeners know about Dr. Long, Lieutenant Colonel Long, and she was visiting her
Yeah,
father,
wonderful.
and her father is not doing well. He had a comeback of his cancer, and she was upset because he was told, hey, this is going to be great for you, so he went ahead and got it. I think this is before we knew everything, and she was just so downhearted about how all these people that are just falling prey to this and who are victims of this shot. And her dad said something that just it pulled right at my heartstrings. He said, "Don't feel bad for me. I'm not a victim because I have Jesus. Feel bad for the people that got the shot that don't have faith in Jesus. Right now is the time. Build that relationship with Jesus if you haven't already."
I totally agree. I believe, it's a spiritual battle. I've said what keeps me going is my many beliefs, my belief that God is in control of everything, even the evil in the world. He knows how it's going to turn out, and He knows our hearts. And I think this experience, as more and more people wake up, they realize the evil that is operating right now in the world. It is driving people to the Lord. It's driving people to restore their relationship with God, and to just to pray more. In that way it's a good thing, and maintain your faith in God. There's an incredible thing in the Jewish faith. When somebody dies and you go to the funeral or you go to the grave site, there's a mourner's kaddish. So it's a mourner's prayer. And the very first time I heard it, I thought, well, that doesn't have anything to do with the person who passed away. All this prayer is about, Dr. Sam, is praising God, trusting God, just saying, just over and over again, you're the ruler of the universe. You're the God of love and light, and it's praising God. And it's so that Satan is looking down going, God, I couldn't even break you with this, and it just was a great lesson, to see that and to be told, to be interpreted, to interpret that way, that it's all eyes on God, because it doesn't matter what Satan does, but God is depending on us, I think, to try to help each other and teach each other and get each other back into the fold, right?
Dr. Jane, I want to thank you so much, and I wish we had more time today, but I got some other things going on. I truly appreciate you giving me your time. Thank you so much. And where can people hear from you?
Well, I'm mostly on Telegram because I have over 100,000 members, and I break a lot of news there because there's such a density in population. But I'm on the Stu Peters Network. I have my own show, the Dr. Jane Ruby Show. And on Monday nights, I have a live show on Brighty on TV. It's called Live with Dr. Jane. So come and see me, and write to me at my public email. It's Proton, drjaneruby@protonmail, and I try to answer as many as I can. So hit me up there and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for
I truly
having me.
appreciate it. Thank you. Just a reminder for everyone out there, duty uniform of the day, the full armor of God. Let's all make courage more contagious than fear.